is okay, but you are missing one thing. And you receive a promise that this one thing will be yours. However, you did not receive when or how. You just know it is yours and it will come. Hello and welcome or welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Life with Rosie. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Please leave a comment. What was your best part of Thanksgiving? For me, it was spending time with my dad. If you have not followed me since the beginning of the year, in January, my dad got sick with pneumonia. So for him to be alive and well, I am very happy this Thanksgiving. As much as sometimes he does annoy me, but I believe that's grumpy old man tactics. Nevertheless, it was very small because it was just the two of us, no big meals. Hopefully, you was not surprised by any mac and cheese fillings. If you haven't seen that funny meme that was going around this past Thanksgiving weekend. Today's episode is about waiting well, and in Resilient Faith, it is me translating for you a particular passage in the Bible to show you how relevant it is for you and that it is more modern and relatable today more than ever, and that the stories in the Bible do speak to you and they are about you and for you. In this, I'll be speaking about waiting well. I shared briefly in Tea Time, Truth Time this past Saturday, which is only on our YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go there now and subscribe. The link is in the bio. And I was sharing about waiting for Isaac and not settling for Ishmael, and that I am going through a waiting season that I've been going through since the age of 20. Any personal challenge that therapy could help with, therapy can provide tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. It's betterhelp.com/theresilientlife. If you are struggling, consider online therapy with our sponsor, BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/theresilientlife. Also, it gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Again, click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/theresilientlife. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. Now back to our episode. It has been good, bad, and ugly, and I have learned a lot from the story of Sarah and the fact that I have made my own Ishmaels, which I thank God he forgave me for and showed me grace and mercy. And unfortunately, you may have created your own Ishmael, which I will share shortly what I mean. We first go to the book of Genesis, and the story of Abram and Sarah starts in the end of Genesis chapter 11. We first see the promise given to Abraham in chapter 15. And God tells him that he will have many nations. Now, if you know the story, their age, they were old in age. By the time Abraham received that message, he was 75 and Sarah was 10 years younger than him. I don't know what your rate is. It could be for a job. It could be for a spouse like me. It could be for a child like Sarah. It could be for your loved one to get well. I will say that waiting is hard and it deals more not with what you want, but your heart posture throughout the wait. We see in Genesis 16, Sarah and Abraham have been waiting 10 years already for a child. Because of the wait, she took it upon herself and thought maybe this child, this promise was not to be through me, but it's only for Abraham. So she took it upon herself to tell her husband to sleep with one of the slaves, which was Hagar, and she birthed Ishmael. Now, Ishmael was not the promised child, but she took it upon herself to settle. My question to you, what Ishmael have you created because the wait took too long for you? We have all made Ishmaels in our lives. I know for me, I have made past boyfriends an Ishmael because I thought, you know what, God, maybe you wanted this guy to be my Isaac. And then I realized that was so not God because he didn't even tell me he was. It was me saying that because I looked at my age. I looked at everyone around me getting married. I looked at my emotions of feeling lonely and maybe God just needs some help, as Sarah did. And I created these Ishmaels that I had to let go of, just like Abraham had to do with Ishmael. He had to let Ishmael go. I have 3 questions to ask you. Why is waiting hard for you? What are you doing while you wait? And think back to the last time you waited for something. How did you feel when you received it? And was it worth the wait? Right now, I know I had a crying moment with God, I believe yesterday. And I told him that in my 30s, I wish I did a lot of things differently. And the friends that I had, because I looked at them and thought, okay, well, they are Christian and they are having adult activities before marriage. So, and they got married to these men. Why can't I? And God politely told me, what they are doing is none of your business. And what I have for you is for you. And once he told me that, of course, I cried because I don't know if you ever seen the meme of Jesus holding a big bear, but the kid is reluctant to give the small bear because that's all they see and that's all they know. And they don't believe there's anything better. And I feel you and I go through the same thing of we don't see anything better than what we see right now. But then it comes to us, you and me, limiting God and limiting his power and not trusting God to do something impossible. And in Genesis 18:14, God even asked Sarah, and he's asking you as well, is anything too hard for the Lord? And I hope you answered no. But if you answered yes, then I will ask you, what is your view of God? What is your view of God's power? And what are you placing your eyes on that is contributing to that limited point of view? Do you need a place for your thoughts? Are you feeling anxious, especially this holiday season? Check out my website, roadtoresilient.com, for ideas. The link is in the description. Isaac comes about in Genesis 21, and I would like to read verse 1 and 2. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. This is powerful because this shows that God, when he makes promises, he puts it on his name. Therefore, God does not lie. If he put it on his name, God does not take it away. Even in our disobedience, even in our faults, God is gracious and merciful enough to you to still keep his word about that promise that he has shared with you. And if you see in verse 2, it says, at the very time God had promised him. God promised you something, and it's for an appointed time. Not for your time, but the appointed time. And here are 3 ways for you to wait well for your appointed time. Number 1, remember the promise. In Genesis, God gave the promise 3 times to Abraham and Sarah. He honestly did not have to. And remember the promise. that God gave you. Number 2, keep productive. If you're anything like me, when you're waiting on the line and it's long, I don't know if this happens with you, but with me, I used to move and go to the shorter line only for that long line to all of a sudden move faster than the shorter line. And I told myself, we're not going to do that anymore. And I stopped doing that. And then all of a sudden, this woman will come to me and say, oh, I opened the lane. And I said, look at God. Be productive in the wait. Don't get mad that you're waiting long. Maybe start a project that you've been wanting to start for a long time. I have been volunteering during the years of my wait. I've been taking care of my mom, taking care of my dad. I have traveled a lot. I have gone on medical mission trips. I volunteered a lot. I have done a lot of different things. I've wrote a book and I've read a lot of books to help me prepare for the season that I am long awaiting for. What are you doing that is productive during your wait? In Hebrews chapter 11, this is the famous chapter of the people of faith. In verse 11, we see, and by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him being God, faithful who had made the promise. So number 3, it is important that you have faith for it to come. And most importantly, to consider God is faithful who gave you that promise. It was her faith that allowed her to have her child. Have faith in God. Have faith that God is wanting you to fulfill the promise. It wasn't for Hagar to fulfill the promise. It wasn't for whomever you believe this promise is for. If God gave you that promise, that means it's only to you and through you. Remember to join our email list. Check out the website roadtoresilient.com to get your free PDF. And I will leave you with this. Remember, Ishmael became annoying to Sarah once Isaac came and he had to leave. Save yourself from the unnecessary traumas that come from the Ishmaels that we have allowed into our lives and we had to settle for. I know for me, I had to go through a lot of heartache and unnecessary pain because I allowed different Ishmaels into my life. And they don't have to come in terms of boyfriends. It could come in terms of jobs. It could come in terms of friendships. And God knows I had a lot of Ishmaels in that realm as well. And most importantly, the wait has nothing to do with you. There's a story of Jesus, Mary, and Elizabeth. And this is found in Matthew. And with Christmas coming up, Elizabeth was old in age. Then you have Mary, who's 15 years old. Mary becomes pregnant with Jesus. And Elizabeth becomes pregnant with John the Baptist. If Elizabeth was pregnant years before with John the Baptist, he would not have been there for when Jesus came, which is what John the Baptist's purpose was for, to prepare the way for Jesus. So just know that what you're waiting for is so much bigger than you, and to just be thankful that God wants to choose you for this promise, for the wait, and to remember this wait is hard, but it is worth it. Remember to check us out this Saturday for Tea Time, Truth Time. Also, enjoy the last day of November. Can you believe it? Lord Jesus. And please leave a comment below of any scriptures that you would like me to break apart to make it relevant for you, because the Bible is the living word. Stay resilient.